Unshelf Design Academy. I'm Sarah Kirkpatrick, owner of Unshelf Design, and today we are going to be doing an episode on faux floral arrangement. And today I have Jackie with me from Blossoms YYC. Why don't you tell me a little about you?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Jaqueline Spackman. I am a floral designer at Blossoms YYC. We are a florist that's located within Calgary Farmers Market West. I personally have been in the business for upwards of 15 years, so a lot of design experience and working with predominantly fresh flowers, but today we will be touching base on faux florals. In the business, we call this permanent botanicals.
Jackie did all of my wedding flowers, so I'll show you. She's very, very talented. And as she mentioned, we will be touching on real flowers as well as permanent botanicals. And we're going to give you some insights into when to use which one, how to care a little bit about your real ones, as well as getting into permanents and how we use those in my business. And with her eye for real flowers, she's amazing at creating arrangements with faux flowers. So let's get started. We're going to do an overview first. Floral Education, which will be just all the information you kind of need to know about real and faux. We're going to talk about fresh versus faux, why and when you need them. Vases and the containers, which have a big part in not only aesthetics, but function, especially with real flowers. Cutting your flowers, selecting your flowers, arranging them. So we're going to show you lots of different arrangement inspiration for you, and then taking them home. So fresh flowers, why don't you take that?
Yeah, so fresh flowers, why fresh? Well, nothing compares to fresh flowers. They add a lush and fragrant touch to any environment. They're a beautiful pop of color. They're a great way to add like a seasonal touch to any space that you're designing in. There's some positives, of course, with fresh flowers and also negatives. So you've got to keep in mind that there is an expiration date on fresh flowers. So it's not something that's going to last long term like permanent botanicals. There's more care that goes into them. So you're going to have to be cleaning them, refreshing your vases, cleaning your vases, switching them out from time to time. So it's just a different look than going with your permanent botanicals.
And I think they have different needs within a home as well. So for where to use them, for example, like Jackie said, they are the best option when you can use them. But if you have like a dark entryway or any space that's not going to get the light that they need, then that's where faux comes in. However, when you have the option to use real flowers, we highly recommend it. So what are some of the big places that you would always try at least to use?
Yeah, so for sure, like you want to put them in brighter locations that you're able to see and enjoy them. When you're investing in fresh flowers, like you want to enjoy the fragrance, you want to enjoy the look of them, get the most experience and time out of them. So I like to put them in places I'm in daily. So like your kitchen island, in the bathroom is always a really nice touch because it, you know, the fragrance is nice in there. And it's
I don't have windows in my bathroom.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
For those of you that are lucky.
Have like a nice little nook in your entryway, like that's a really great place to showcase it. When guests come in, it's like their first impression when walking in. So,
and you get hit with that beautiful scent.
Yeah,
when you walk in as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and then some tips and tricks. So choosing seasonal flowers is the most economical. You run a flower shop. How does that really impact? Yeah. I know that I tried to get peonies for my wedding and you're like, yeah, sorry, it's September. So
always the flower that everybody wants. And really the first week of June is always the best time to do it. So there's lots of tips and tricks when choosing fresh flowers. Your local florist, of course, is a great resource. Utilize them. They've spent lots of time gaining knowledge on the care, the handling, what's best to use at certain times of the year. So of course, using seasonal flowers is a great way. They're not only going to be more economical when they're in their prime growing season, they're also going to be the nicest at that time. So they're going to be bigger, they're going to be stronger, and therefore they're going to last longer. Also options like Greenery is a great long-lasting fresh option. Certain greens that I use, like I get months out of them sometimes, which is crazy. But it's a great kind of, touch. And then, of course, dry floral is so trendy right now. So choosing things that are going to not only look great fresh, but then transition into dry, that's a great way to use the dual functionality and extend the life of your fresh flowers. And you can incorporate those dry flowers into your designs with your permanent. So yeah, just great ways. And I know like you like to use flowers often in your design. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, for home staging, we only use faux flowers, obviously, because people aren't always there. But for my design clients, I always try to bring in a fresh bouquet if possible. Really depends if that client has a green thumb or not. But I did have one question. If it's out of season, can you, I know peonies was like a tough one, but can you get flowers that are out of season? Are you just going to pay an astronomical amount and they may not be beautiful, or you're just like, no?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we live in a world where you can pretty much get anything at any time if you're willing to pay. The downside is peonies off season, like they're just not going to be as strong. And I always recommend to my clients, like there's lots of substitutions that you can do that give off that similar look and feel. So I try and steer them that way just so there isn't, you know, that disappointment and they aren't putting out so much in that. So a good example of that would be like dahlia is a very trendy flower that people like to use. It has a window when it's nice. It's not the most long-lived fresh flower, but a commercial mum that's big and fluffy, like that's available year-round and gives off that similar look. Sometimes you don't even know in the photos that it's a
That's what you
flower.
gave me.
That's what I gave you.
I was pretty happy with okay, so caring for your florals, this is going to be a Jackie moment. So why don't you just do a little bit of an intro and then we'll zoom right in and show what you're doing.
Awesome. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks when bringing fresh florals home. First thing that I would like to promote is shop local. So support your local businesses. Both Sarah and I run local businesses. That's so important in this day. And then with fresh flowers, you're going to notice a difference in quality buying at the grocery store versus buying at your local florist. And then of course we have the knowledge and recommendations that we can give to you. So when you bring your flowers home, one of the first steps that you're going to do is you're going to clean your flowers. So when you first get your flowers home, you're going to want to clean them. So you're going to want to take off like any foliage that isn't looking good, anything that's brown. Another thing to keep in mind is you want to strip anything that is below in your water line. So take off all of the leaves on the roses. Roses come with thorns, so cut those off so you don't prickle yourself.
And why do you take them off below?
So the leaves, if you don't take them off and they sit in your water, that's going to create more bacteria within your water. It's going to speed up that process. And when you have bacteria in your water, that causes your flowers to wilt faster. So just having a clean stem in your water line is just going to keep everything fresher for longer. So really an important step when bringing home your fresh flowers. So on this stalk, I'm going to strip off all these leaves. They're not going to look nice in a couple of days, so there's no reason to have them. You want the flower to shine.
And will they die sooner if you pull off all those leaves, or is it worth it regardless?
It doesn't do anything to damage the flower, and sometimes you'll notice like maybe blooms aren't the most appealing, so if you don't like the look of that, you could take them off. On the roses, they have guard petals, so these outer petals, they're not always the nicest. It's perfectly fine to just take those off. That will help promote it to open, and it's just going to look more beautiful for you. When selecting your vase, I always fill the vase with a lukewarm water, so you don't want anything that's going to shock the flowers too much, so nothing that's like overly cold or super hot. Flower food is something that you can add to your water, so when you get your fresh flowers, often you will get flower food. So just open up the package, pour it in, stir it in, and the fresh food helps with the bacteria growth. It slows that down. So.
And in terms of like how important is it to read the instructions on that, on how much should go into how much water?
I mean, on each package, it will say how much to use with what portion of water. The good thing is to use more. More is better than less. So you can't really use too much. So if you throw the whole package in, I mean, that's going to be more helpful than not putting flower food.
Perfect.
The most important step with your flowers is the recut before going in the vase. So when your flowers have been sitting out of water for a period of time, you take it out. The stem is exposed to air. So this stem is going to start sealing up. So if I just place that in the vase. I don't do anything to it. Even if my florist has cut it, you know, half an hour before when I picked it up, it's going to be mostly sealed. So there's going to be no water intake and your flowers are going to start to wilt fast. So recutting is key. That helps it take that water take in and keeps your blooms fresher, sturdier for longer. Best tools for that is something like a non-serrated paring knife. So you're going to give a fresh, clean cut on an angle, and then you're going to place in your vase. Of course, I'm going to take these off because I don't want them under that water line. So just going to do a couple here as an example.
So for knife safety, I see you cutting towards yourself.
Yes.
She's a professional.
So I have had many years of experience cutting with a knife, so I know this might seem cumbersome to people. So another alternative is a really good pair of garden shears. This is a lot easier if you're not comfortable cutting with a knife. It's also great for woodier stems. So much easier kind of motion. You're not having to worry about cutting yourself. It's tempting to want to use your scissors. I know everyone has that at home and not everyone has these tools, but with scissors, they will end up crushing the stem. They don't do the right type of cut. So these are better tools, like invest in these tools if you're going to be bringing fresh home.
But I could put the knife if I only have scissors. Yeah. I could put it on a cutting board.
Yes.
And what is it, like a 45?
Yeah, do it
90
like on an
matter?
angle and just kind of cut through. That is another way.
But not serrated because that'll damage.
Yeah, serrated is, you're just not going to get as much of a smooth cut with a serrated knife. So if the water line goes down and say this has been out of water and you notice that, just give it a nice recut and put it back in. That will help it take that water intake again. And then stems will get grungy over time. So, you know, after a week or so, the water might not be that nice. You could repurpose this into a lower vase, cut off that grunginess and just put it in something lower. And then you're extending the life of your flowers that way.
Yeah. So once it gets slimy, I mean, you obviously probably didn't change the water enough.
Exactly. Like if you weren't refreshing your water, the blooms might still be really nice. So it's just a way to get more life out of your flowers that way. Just do something shorter. Just keep going shorter.
Just go down, down, down.
Down, down, down.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then, like I said, greenery options are always a great, really long lasting. This is ruscus. I design with this a lot. This green, I kid you not, will last months in water like that. So just a really great fresh option.
Even if we don't have a green thumb.
Yeah. So even once your flowers go, you can pull them out and still enjoy your greenery.
All right, now for the part you've all been waiting for, the faux arrangement. So we're going to talk about all the vases and why you use faux over real. So why faux? The biggest one that I think is light. Obviously, as we said, when you have real, you know, they're living sentient beings and they have to be fed. However, if you have a bathroom like I do, where there's absolutely no windows in there, or you have some dark spaces where real flowers just wouldn't have a long life, that's where you can really bring in faux, as well as hard to reach places. As a designer, I'm not a big fan of how people have greenery and stuff up on their kitchen cabinets and sort of the clutter of that. But I know that there are sometimes places and niches where you want something really beautiful and you just can't get to it really easily to change flowers and continue to cut and lower the vases and all the things that we learned.
They're low maintenance.
Yeah, it's very low maintenance spot. It just always looks nice there. Things that are open to the elements, because I imagine, I mean, I'm more of a plant person than a flower person, but I know that if you have big breezes or your heaters are coming out, it'll kill your flowers.
Especially in our climate, like when we reach winter time, lots of people like to buy those big, beautiful plants, put them in their entryway. But then when you're opening the door to -30 weather, you're going to get that cool draft and that's going to end up killing your plant. So that's where permanent botanical is a really great option to get a similar look, but you're not going to have to worry about it dying on you.
Yeah. And you can get obviously those big silk trees. Another one is if you really just from a design aesthetic, you want a beautiful focal point in your space and you want that to be consistent. You're kind of designing your scheme around it and it really fits in and you don't want to have to be worried about dead flowers or losing that beauty at some point and having to constantly replace that. And then someone that's just like me, that you just need low maintenance. You just have too many things going on. And much as I want to be that person, I know that I probably won't be for anything other than one arrangement. So in terms of where we should put these flowers, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I really love entryways, and I do prefer real flowers in an entryway if possible. However, like we were saying, in the winter, if that door is opening and closing, you got kids and hockey and soccer and everything, that might kill those flowers up front. So you could probably put botanical or faux at that front door. I also, like she said, really like them in bathrooms, just little greenery in the bathroom. It just kind of feels fresh in a place that can maybe not always feel super fresh. So, and then the last one, I love it on a coffee table. It's just your beautiful focal point. You have a fireplace, you have just a stunning arrangement that's low, which we'll talk about. Just something that really makes that room pop that you feel when you walk in and you're just like, oh yes, it's beautiful in here. So what are some tips and tricks for finding those botanicals?
Okay, so just like fresh, the quality can be very different between your permanent botanicals. So there is, of course, very high end and then more economical options. If you can, I always suggest investing in really good quality. Think about that this is not something that you're going to be replacing constantly like fresh flowers. So it's going to be a one-off. So you want something that can sit there for years. So it's worth investing. A little tip that I like to do when designing, if I want to save on my permanent design, is I will purchase my focal flowers. So the bigger flowers that are more seen in my design, I'll buy those in a very good quality. Like permanents almost look real, like the technology has come really far in them. So sometimes they will run even more than your fresh flowers, but again, keep in mind that you're buying them once versus multiple times. And then you can bulk up your designs with more economical fillers, greenery, things that are you're not going to see in detail, but they give, you know, a bigger, bulkier feel to your designs.
An easy way to tell if it's high end, here's a quick example. These are not high end. So you can really see like it's fabricy, it's starting to tear and shred. Like this just does not look real. So these are ones that, you know, I probably normally wouldn't use in a big arrangement because it's pretty obvious, but that's how you can really tell it's plasticky. However, eucalyptus has come a really long way for looking pretty real, and they come in a bunch of different designs. So these ones look pretty good. Like they're higher end eucalyptus. These ones you see a little bit papery, but they still look relatively nice from a distance. Good from far, far from good. But then you can just see how these ones could look quite realistic.
You're basically looking exactly like the real thing, especially with this, with the flocking on it and the feel to it. Like it's a stronger feel. It's going to be hardier.
Coming from a florist, looks real.
So just like fresh flowers, like if you're investing in your permanents, they're going to go further. They're going to last longer for you. Of course, there's a lot of places that you can pick up permanent botanicals in the city and everywhere. It's becoming really on trend again. I'd just like to share a couple places that I really like to purchase them from.
And keeping in mind, I know you may not be in Calgary. These are some places in Calgary, but there will be places like these. We'll just kind of explain what kind of stores those are.
So for high-end, two shops that I go to are Silk Plant Warehouse, as well as Chintz and Company. They both specialize in silk flowers, so they have a very great selection, lots to choose from. They're all very good quality. The nice thing about those two locations too is they have designers on site. So if you have any questions or if you don't feel like doing the design yourself and you want to have them do it, that's an option. And then of course, we can't all go to those places. So look around at your home decor places like Home Sense, Michael's, even the dollar stores, like you can find some good things to fill in with. And then of course, Sarah specializes in secondhand in her design. So
I love secondhand. You can find some really high-end floral secondhand, whether it's a thrift store or a garage sale. I'll see if there's a photo that I can share on this, but I was doing garage sales and there was a huge box full of faux flowers, and there's a picture of me like fully upside down, feet in the air, digging through this box of florals. And I'd say about 50% of what you're going to see today was from that box. So you can find amazing faux flowers secondhand, maybe not in a box on the street, but at least I found it. You can too. Thrift stores have them. And another thing about Michael's is, you always get that coupon, but also watch for season flips. So you might have to store them a little bit, but you can get amazing prices at the end of the season.
For sure. And then also marketplace online, you can find a lot. Like with this product, so much stuff ends up in our infill, and both Sarah and I are really conscious of this in our design. They should have a long lifespan, so you can give them a new home, repurpose them. Yeah. So shop secondhand wherever you can, or shop at local businesses, support local.
Yep. Another thing about Marketplace, you will find a lot of really outdated faux plants on there. Again, you'll see the papery look. Some of them little unsalvageable, but I have seen people do things. You can check out our DIY video, but like spray them black or spray them gold and do things that you don't have to look real. They can just be focals. And also changing the vase of an old plant, like the old wicker. If you put that in a beautiful new stone vase or pot, it can change the life completely, which brings us coincidentally into our vases and containers section. So I'm just going to pull out a few and I'll start this off, and then Jackie's going to take over. But one thing that's really important to note with faux flowers, clear vases are beautiful, and I do use this in staging this arrangement, but you can see the stems. It's very obvious that this is not a real flower. So keeping that in mind, if you're okay knowing that this is fake, clear vases are going to be a problem for that. You can get some that have some opacity so that it hides that, but even still you can kind of tell that this is not real, though it does sort of take away the focal of the stems. So when you're using faux, sometimes it's just better to have fully opaque vases that are going to hide that a little bit. So Jackie's going to just tell me a little bit about the difference of vases for real flowers, because I'm sure they all have an impact on the type of arrangement you're doing.
Okay, so choosing your vases when designing with fresh flowers, you do have to keep in mind that your vases need to be watertight. Again, the same thing applies with permanent botanicals. If you have something like a clear vase, you're going to be seeing the stems. So I told you to strip that foliage off, so you're seeing nice clean stems. The water is going to get grungy over time. So same thing, an opaque vase is a really good way to kind of hide that. And then if your containers like this are watertight, you could use them for fresh. And then moving into vase selection with your permanent botanicals, one of the great things is you don't have to worry about water. So really you can use anything as a container for your faux.
And I love to use pieces that really mean something to you. You know, you can use a little teacup that was from your grandma's and put just a beautiful poof on the top of it. You can really look around your house, find vases that maybe you don't use a lot because you don't have permanent or real flowers in your home very often, or something that may not even be used for for flowers. Like it could be any sort of vessel, and then you can create. I actually have a quick example here, which is more of a tree than a plant, but as an example, we have a teapot that we just put a plant into. So something that it's just a little more unique.
Yeah, it's a great way to repurpose things that you want on display all the time, but you don't necessarily know how to use them. So just a great way to use some different shapes and sizes. And then, of course, the most important factor when choosing a vessel is think about where you're going to put it. Like you want something that's size appropriate to the space you're going to put it in. And that also works with your theme. So something that's in a style that's going to work with the environment that you're placing it into. So all important things when
like
picking containers.
You're sitting at dinner.
Yeah.
You're at our dinner table. Welcome.
I'm sure you can't see us through the camera right now too. So
how's that?
Yeah.
So you have to really consider things like height, especially when you have florals on your dinner table, coffee table. I mean, that was a bit of excessive, but
yeah.
That's an example.
Okay, so now comes the fun part. Picking out your permanent botanicals that you're going to be using in your vases now that you've made a selection of your vase. Lots of things to consider when designing with the faux florals. I personally like to use a variety of things. So I like lots of texture. I like lots of florals. If we pulled this one over, like mixing lots of different textures. So you've got your filler flowers, you've got different styles of greenery, varying the heights and the depths of flowers. All these things are going to provide added interest to your design. Of course, you can also keep it simple, pair all one flower together. That's going to make like a great visual impact in design. Maybe great for things like when you're staging your homes, if you're taking pictures, like this is going to maybe show better.
Yeah, it really depends. So I created this one for a home that I was staging with. It just had a lot of different colors of oak and brown. And so I used something like this to help bring those colors together. If you have a house that's pretty cohesive already, you can use things that fit into that color scheme, and you don't have to worry so much about trying to mix and match and bring stuff together. But creating florals is like a rug, a great way to bring colors of the room into one place.
Yeah. So just keep in mind when you're designing, like, really focus on where am I going to be putting this? Is it going to be in an entryway? Maybe it's tall and narrow. Maybe there's a height restriction. So there's a piece of furniture that's going to break it off. Where is it being placed? Is it going to be down low? Like something like this would be perfect on a coffee table that we're going to be viewing from up above. Whereas, you know, something a little higher on a shelf with a nice bright pop of color. Maybe you want something flowing down so you can see it. So think about, is it eye level? Is it up high? And then of course, color palette, like that's something you have to consider. We all have our preferences. So is my home more modern and neutral? Am I a maximalist, which I sure am. I like all the colors and all the things. So
I'm a little more neutral.
Yeah. Are you more monochromatic? Like you want to see some color, but you don't want to go crazy. So then just doing different variations and shades of one color is a really nice way to balance and add harmony to your design. Think about what fits in with your decor, but have fun. It's about, you know, enhancing your personality within your space. So there's...
Yeah, and eucalyptus is actually, we use this a lot in homes, especially in photos. It stands out in the back, so you can put it on a coffee table that's across the room, and it just creates a beautiful feature. So height as well as just a more modern, popular. But what if I took this out and I was like, I think I want some white.
Yeah, I like the white with the vase. So that's one thing that I want to talk about. Like, really consider your vessel. So just something that's really low in this is not going to be as visually appealing. It's going to look weird. Generally in design, you want something that's either 1 time the height of your design or 1.5. You can break these rules, but that is generally where it's nice and visually appealing. With permanents, one good thing about them is they are bendable. So if this is, you know, on a shelf and your gerb is just sticking up like that, like you're not going to be enjoying it, but you could bend that over a little bit, make it more visible, and then get that height in your vase. So add that eucalyptus back in. We'll just see if we can push that back in. And then already that's going to look better because it's not going to be competing with the vase. It's more uniform and in harmony with the vase. So,
okay. We're going to go over more of the arrangements. We're going to do a live demonstration. Jackie's going to put together probably the most beautiful vase arrangement you'll have ever seen. And we'll just do some up close for you for inspiration of the different ones that we have put together. But first, we just want to go over some styling tips and tricks in case you're going along with us. These are some things that you can think about. So as we said, consider your space. Like I said, I brought in oranges because there was a lot of oak in that house. And so I'm trying to bring in those cohesive colors. Or making pops that are going to enhance that. A vessel that suits your concept was the other key. Something that's, you know, where is it going to be? Is it high, low? Is it on a shelf where it's going to like bend your flowers over if you try to shove it in, or something that's a far focal point? So it's got to be big and a wow moment. Also varying the height of your florals, like Jackie said, for that tip, in case you missed it, at least 1 times the height of your vase or 1.5 times the height. And then also having various heights in there to have a nice amount of layer. Stick to a concept, not necessarily a type of flower, but just think of where you're going to have it, what the purpose of that is, not mixing, what did you say, tropicals with.
Yeah, think about what flowers you're pulling. So, you know, maybe you want to stick with all garden flowers together, not have a random tropical and then a garden flower that don't really match together. And then the types of foliage, like there's definitely more foliages that are suited to garden florals, like these leaves in this one with the roses. Like that is a leaf that's very natural and similar to a real rose leaf. So if you were to put in, you know, more of a tropical leaf, that might not give off the vibe that you're trying to go for. So just be mindful of when selecting your flowers. If they flow together, if they're certain, you know, they're in kind of the same family to each other.
Varying the textures, green and floral mix. So it's, you know, having there is a time and a place to just have flowers, but you may probably agree having greenery mixed in brings that to life a little bit. So just considering what different textures are in design, layer and texture. Those are the two things you're going to constantly hear if you're in an interior design world. Flowers are absolutely no different. And then the last and most important tip, be creative.
Yeah, have fun.
Have some fun.
Pick things that, you know, feed your soul.
Yes. One more before we do the demonstration here. Symmetry versus asymmetry. So we have a few examples, I guess, right here. How about that one?
Yeah.
We can show you why it would work. Jackie can tell you better than I can why things will work, why things will not work. So
yeah, so we've got this one here. It's a very uniform, symmetrical, beautiful design aesthetic. But in design right now, the asymmetry is really on trend. So having things kind of spreading out. Now, this one is keeping in mind the 1 to 1.5, but it's more on the length side in your vase. Another thing to consider is my arrangement viewed all around? Is it more front facing? So this design's more front facing, so probably best suited against a wall. If you're looking at it this way, not going to be as nice.
But this one,
that one all around. Yeah, so just have fun. And then of course with this one, you're going to need a space that you can put this in. It's a lot wider. So you're not going to put that in an entryway that's tall and narrow. So
coffee table, dining table.
Yeah, something that it's suited for, right? So
okay, key concepts. These are what Jackie is going to touch on as she shows you her demonstration. Consider your space, keep in mind your concept, grab a bundle, get creative, start rearranging. Follow along with us and come watch the most beautiful arrangement ever.
Okay, so I am going to be making a faux arrangement for you today, providing you with an example. So I have selected my flowers. I'm going for lots of different textures of greenery. My design colors that I tend to design with are more in the purples and blues and neutral tones. So I've selected flowers in that color palette, sticking more with the garden feel of the flowers. And then I also have some dried product here, just to show how you can elongate that fresh flowers and incorporate them into your faux design. So these have all fully dried. So I'm going to be incorporating that as well. My vessel, I want something kind of tall in an entranceway. So I've picked a nice sturdy vessel that's going to support all this product, a really nice quality of glass. And then when I'm designing, I'm going to keep in mind that this is a tall vase. So I want something that's going to be equally as tall as the vase, perhaps a little taller. And I'm going to do some things that are trailing down. I really want it to be big and showy, and it's going to be against a wall, so more front facing in my design. So first, I always like to start by adding my greenery and my textures in, kind of beefing up. So I'll do a couple steps and then I will turn it so everyone can see what I'm doing. So I'm grabbing this nice bushy trailing piece of greens. That's going to be a bulk piece that's going to help support and hold my other pieces. So right now I just have a beautiful trailing green. Again, looks a little awkward, needs more height with the vase. So I'm going to put in some more greenery. We'll put something that kind of frames the back. I've got various textures and shapes and styles. So I'll put some down in there, maybe one of these just getting my base in there. I'll put a nice piece of eucalyptus, give a different color for the greens. So I'll just turn that around, and honestly, you could stop there if you just like the greenery feel. That is something that you could just keep like that, but we will add some flowers. I like all of the things. Next, I like to use my focal flowers. So this beautiful white King Protea, which was featured in Sarah's wedding bouquet, I'm gonna have that as my focal piece. And this I bought from a very high-end permanent botanical store. So it's really good quality. So that's the one that I want to shine. I mentioned that permanents are pliable. So I don't quite want this long. You can just take that end. You can bend it rather than cutting it, because you might want to repurpose it to something taller. And then you're just gonna place in your vase. And then that gets down to the height I want it. And then I've bent it over a little bit. So again, we could stop there, but I want more flowers in there. Add some beautiful hydrangeas, so give a pop of that blue color. Now I did say the design is front facing, so I want everything to be more visual from the front. So I'm gonna put all of that product in there, get varying heights. So I've got these beautiful tall purple flowers. That's gonna give the height to make it proportion to the vase. So right now I have my focal florals in there. I've got the height, I've got some different textures and colors. And I want to see some more textures, have some things coming out the side there. So I'm gonna fill in with a few more greens. I've got these beautiful blueberries that complement what I've been using. Cherries, we'll put a little bit more eucalyptus on the left, so I have it on both the left and the right side. And I really like this kind of lime green pop of color, so I'm going to add a bit more on the other side and have some trailing again. Cut down. Add a little more pop of white in here. And again, the flowers are pliable, so if they're not where you want them to be, you can kind of bend them and make them do that. And there you go. You have a beautiful floral arrangement for your front entryway. And because I mentioned that I'm a maximalist and like all the things, I haven't stopped yet. This is a great way to repurpose your dried floral that you could also add into this design. So I have some fresh eucalyptus that's dried, so we could maybe stick a little bit in there, just gives it another dynamic and an element. Pampas grass, which is great for design. If I want some more height in there, we could add that. That gives that nice natural texture and nice neutral color. And then Eryngium, that's like a thistle. It dries really nicely. It's a type of filler. It would give a nice shape over here. So there's just taking it to another level. So with this design, you could have stopped with just the greens. You could add the flowers. do whatever speaks to your design style, but I wanted to give you some different stages and some ideas for inspiration for your design. So get fun, get creative, and do something that you love and want to see displayed in your house.
All right, she did such a good job. She actually came with some of these flowers, but some of them she just pulled here and she made it work. So I'm super impressed. It's absolutely beautiful. I can certainly use this in any sort of design that I might have with a client. So I love working with florists. I'm not really a floral designer. I'm sure some of those fake ones that we did before, I made some of them, Jackie made some, probably tell the difference a little bit, but I love working with professionals.
You did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, so I would just say that some of these pieces in here, you know, she brought in, I love the pop of color, the extra like lime green that she mentioned. That really makes it feel fresh and light. This is something that you can put on a console table behind a couch at like the back end of a room, and it's going to have a really big feature. Some of these pieces were mine, and you can kind of see in and amongst it the higher quality versus the lower quality. But yeah, like she said, these are all the main focals, really high end, high quality. And then the greenery, you can be a little bit more affordable, and it just acts as sort of a background. So I can't judge it in a bad way. It's absolutely stunning. And I like that you can pull so many different colors in. So thank you so much for showing this to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Taste. Okay, and then the last thing, we just want to leave you with a slide here with a few of ideas on how you can style around your house. Things I love putting little flowers on cookbooks in a kitchen, just having a nice little vignette pop of color there. In the bathroom, you know, you have lavender. It's an amazing thing to have in a bathroom. It just always feels fresh. I have a few of these that I use for staging, especially if you have a nice cedar stool beside your tub. Anything that's on a bookshelf with books, you can stack it, coffee tables. These are really just some examples of how you can use faux flowers in your house as part of a vignette, as part of a larger story. And I hope, please, send us photos. Show me what you created. Tag unshelf.design. You can also tag Jackie. What's your handle?
It's at Blossoms YYC. We would love to see what you guys put together. And please don't be intimidated by a large design. As Sarah said, like, start small. Just do a little small vase and work your way up. And I hope that our tips and tricks have provided some inspiration and you get designing with faux floral.
And thank you so much for joining us. Remember that Unshelf Design Academy has lots of other workshops just as amazing as this, and they are all sorts of design, so you can find DIY or Christmas or things that are perfectly themed for the holidays as well as any time of day. So check out our other videos. Some of them are free, just like this one, and some of them are really high quality content. So please check us out, and thank you so much for visiting, and thank you so much for helping, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Sarah. And please stop by the Calgary Farmers Market and say hi. That's basically where I live all the time. So love to see you.
Thank you so much.